Without loggers, there was no one to clear overgrown forests or to treat areas that were increasingly beginning to look like fire dangers. And even if there had been foresters available, laws like the Endangered Species Act may have prevented the work.
By 1990, they were saying, listen, we don't want to do any management. And so we could see even then that we were headed on a disastrous course that was going to have impacts for hundreds of years, if not thousands of years.
Along with the Endangered Species Act, environmentalists were able to add additional constraints on logging and development in the forests, like NEPA, the National Environmental Policy Act.
Oftentimes we hear that the Forest Service can't get anything done because NEPA is in the way and it's taking too long. That law is there for very good reason. We do want to be sure that we have environmental protections.
While this can protect forests, in cases where it is applied overzealously, doing any management of the forests, including wildfire management, becomes difficult.
Starting with the onslaught of environmental legislation and protective policies, we now have millions of acres of wilderness areas, so nobody can go in there. That puts 70,000 forest products industry companies out of business.
With fewer loggers in the woods, even less land area is actively managed each year. Once the loggers were gone, the fuel loads grew dramatically, and without fire to regularly clear them, the forests were reaching a breaking point.
In 1987, we had 2,300 lightning strikes strike the West Coast. And they started thousands of acres of fires. But in those days, there were loggers in the woods logging, and we probably put out 3/4 of the fire. Then by 1990, they were saying, listen, we don't want to do any management.
We started losing a lot of those natural fire cycles that cleared out, a lot of the underbrush and those kinds of things. There's data that estimate that even back in the early part of the 1900s, somewhere between 30 and 50 million acres of land would burn every year. And then as we move into World War II and certainly past World War II, that number really falls off.
Let me put this in perspective. You have the National Park Service, you have the National Wildlife Refuge Service. Forest Service is bigger than both the park system and the refuge system combined, like 193 million acres. It was set up to have forests managed. Tree cutting, businesses, etc., were foundational elements of the management. And that's changed over time as more and more preservation, hands-off philosophies, so ranging from Smokey the Bear, you got to put out every fire, to you can't cut a tree.